The day I gave my daughter-in-law a housewarming gift, she hugged me so tightly that for one foolish moment, I thought I had gained a daughter. 3 weeks later, I stood in the same house while she pointed at my bank statement and said, "You have enough money to fix this." I looked at her. Then I looked at my son. And I realized something had gone terribly wrong. Because the problem she wanted to fix wasn't her broken washing machine, her leaking roof, or even the mortgage she had willingly signed. She wanted to fix her life with my life savings. And what happened next was the one thing neither of them expected. 3 weeks earlier, I had been standing in the middle of their new living room, smiling as my son Daniel carried the last cardboard box through the front door. His wife, Melissa, was everywhere at once. She was opening cabinets, checking paint samples, taking pictures of the staircase, and telling anyone who would listen that she had finally gotten the house she deserved. I was genuinely happy for them. Daniel had worked hard since college. He wasn't wealthy, but he was responsible, steady, and careful with money. At least, that's what I had always believed. The house was modest but beautiful. 3 bedrooms, a small backyard, a bright kitchen, and a porch that caught the afternoon sun. It wasn't the kind of home you saw in magazines. But it was theirs. And I wanted to make their first night there special. So I arrived carrying a basket filled with homemade cinnamon bread, coffee, 2 bottles of sparkling cider, and a small wrapped box. Melissa opened the door. "Mom. You came." She hugged me before I could even step inside. I smiled. I wouldn't miss this. Daniel appeared behind her and took the basket from my hands. "You didn't have to bring all this." "I know," I said. "That's what makes it a gift." He laughed. We spent the afternoon sitting on folding chairs because their furniture hadn't arrived yet. They told me about their plans. A dining table would go near the window. A sectional would face the fireplace. They wanted to repaint the kitchen someday. And Melissa wanted a garden. I listened, laughed, and offered opinions only when asked. Then, just before I left, I handed Daniel the little wrapped box. "For both of you." Melissa opened it. Inside was a handwritten card. And beneath the card was a check for $8,000. Daniel's mouth fell open. "Mom." "It's for the house," I said. He immediately started shaking his head. "No. I can't take this." "Yes, you can. We already have everything we need. Then use it for something that makes this house feel like home." Melissa's eyes were shining. She hugged me again. "Oh my gosh. Thank you." I smiled. At the time, I thought I was giving them a head start. I didn't realize I was giving Melissa a glimpse of something she would soon become obsessed with. 2 days later, she called me. "Thank you again for the money." "You're welcome. We're thinking about using some of it for the backyard." "That sounds nice." She paused. "Do you have savings too?" The question was so casual that I almost missed it. "I have retirement savings." "How much?" I laughed. "That's a very personal question." She laughed too. "I know. I'm just curious." I changed the subject. She didn't ask again. At least, not that day. A week later, I noticed something strange. Melissa had started calling me almost every evening. At first, it was pleasant. She wanted recipes. She asked about Daniel's childhood. She wanted to know where I bought certain furniture. But slowly, the questions changed. "How much did your house cost when you bought it? Is it completely paid off? Do you still have the same mortgage? Do you have investments?" I answered some questions vaguely and ignored others. I never imagined she was collecting information. Then one Saturday afternoon, she came over alone. She sat at my kitchen table with a cup of tea and a notebook. I smiled. "What are you working on?" "Nothing serious." She closed the notebook. Then she smiled. "Actually, I wanted to talk to you about something." My stomach tightened. "What about?" "Your retirement." I stared at her. "My retirement?" "Yes." She leaned forward. "You're doing very well financially, right?" "I manage." "I've always admired that about you." There was something different in her voice. Not affection. Calculation. She began explaining how expensive everything had become. Mortgage payments. Property taxes. Insurance. Utilities. Home repairs. Then she told me Daniel was worried about their finances. I hadn't heard that from him. What exactly is he worried about? She sighed. The mortgage. They knew what they were signing. I know. Then what's the problem? Melissa looked down at her tea. The problem is that we're trying to build a future. So am I. She looked up. What do you mean? My future. She smiled awkwardly. Of course. Then she changed the subject. I thought the conversation was over. It wasn't. 3 days later, she sent me a message. Would you ever consider selling your house? I didn't answer. A second message arrived. You could move somewhere smaller. Then another. It would free up a lot of money. I finally replied. No. That was it. No explanation. No argument. Just no. I thought that would end it. Instead, it began. The following Friday, Daniel called. Mom, Melissa thinks we should talk. About what? Our finances. I already told her I'm not selling my house. He was silent. Then he said something that made my heart sink. She says it wouldn't really be selling it. I frowned. What does that mean? She thinks you could move in with us. I stared at the wall. With you? Yes. In your new house? She says we'd build an apartment over the garage. I almost laughed. Instead, I felt a coldness spread through me. Daniel, who would pay for that? Another pause. She says the money from your house could cover it. There it was. Not a suggestion. A plan. My home would become their down payment. My savings would become their renovation fund. And my future would become whatever space they decided to give me. Daniel, I said quietly, did you agree to this? I don't know. That isn't an answer. He sighed. I just thought maybe we could figure something out. I already figured it out. What? No. He didn't argue. But I could hear disappointment in his voice. And somehow, that hurt more than Melissa's entitlement. 2 nights later, Melissa arrived at my house with Daniel. She carried a folder. I knew immediately that this wasn't a family visit. We sat around my dining table. Melissa opened the folder. I put together a proposal. I looked at Daniel. He wouldn't meet my eyes. She slid a printed sheet toward me. It contained estimated property values, renovation costs, mortgage calculations, and projected savings. At the top was a title. Family Financial Plan. I almost smiled. You made a financial plan for me? For all of us. I looked down the page. If I sold my house, they could pay off a large portion of their mortgage. I would supposedly move into a private apartment attached to their home. My remaining money would go into an investment account. They would manage the household. They would help me with appointments. And, according to one section, I could contribute toward family expenses instead of paying separate living costs. I read the sentence twice. Then I looked at Melissa. You expect me to finance your mortgage? No. She smiled. I expect us to use the family's resources intelligently. And my resources are family resources? Of course. Who decided that? She glanced at Daniel. He looked miserable. I closed the folder. No. Melissa's expression hardened. You haven't even considered it. I considered it before you finished your first sentence. You're sitting on a paid-off house while your son is struggling. My son bought a house he could afford. He could afford it because you helped. I gave you both $8,000. Exactly. I stared at her. She continued. You have so much more. Something inside me went completely still. How much do you think I have? She hesitated. Then she named a number. It was surprisingly close. I hadn't told her. Daniel hadn't told her. Which meant she had either searched through something she shouldn't have or had been asking questions much more carefully than I realized. I looked at my son. Daniel. He finally raised his eyes. Did you tell her about my accounts? No. Did you show her anything? No, Mom. Melissa interrupted. You're acting like I've done something terrible. You've been planning how to spend money that isn't yours. We're family. Family doesn't mean ownership. Her face flushed. You're choosing a house over your son. No, I said quietly. I'm choosing my son over a woman who wants his mother's future. Daniel stood. Melissa. She snapped toward him. Don't. That single word told me everything. She wasn't afraid of me. She was afraid Daniel might finally disagree with her. I picked up the folder. Take this. She frowned. Why? Because I don't want it in my house. Daniel whispered, Mom, please. I looked at him. You should have stopped this before she had to ask me. He looked down. That hurt. More than the money. More than the proposal. The fact that my own son had watched someone make plans for my future and had been too afraid to stop her. They left without another word. I locked the door behind them. Then I sat alone at the kitchen table. For 29 years, I had believed being a good mother meant helping whenever my children needed me. That night, I realized there was a difference between helping someone and allowing them to depend on you. I didn't sleep much. At 6 the next morning, I opened my laptop. I checked my bank accounts. Everything looked normal. Then I checked my investment accounts. Normal. My retirement account. Normal. My credit report. And that's when I saw it. There was a recent credit inquiry from a financial institution I didn't recognize. I stared at it. I hadn't applied for anything. I called the bank. After answering several security questions, the representative told me the inquiry was connected to a loan application. A loan application using my information. My heart started pounding. Did anyone complete the application? No, she said. It appears the application was abandoned. Can you tell me when it was submitted? She gave me the date. It was 4 days after I had given Daniel and Melissa the $8,000. I sat completely still. Someone had tried to use my information. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe it was a mistake. But I wasn't willing to gamble with my future. I contacted my bank. I froze my credit. I changed my passwords. I removed every old authorized user from every account. Then I called my attorney. I explained everything. He listened carefully. Finally, he said, "You don't need to punish anyone. You just need to protect yourself." That sentence stayed with me. Because I realized I didn't want revenge. I wanted boundaries. But sometimes boundaries feel like revenge to people who benefited from having none. 3 days passed. Then Daniel called. "Mom, we need to talk." "About the loan application?" Silence. My stomach dropped. "You knew?" "No." "Then why are you silent?" I knew Melissa had looked into some financing options. "Using my information?" She said it was just preliminary. I closed my eyes. "Daniel, that's not normal." "I know. Do you?" His voice cracked. "I know now." I could hear something different in him. Fear. Not fear of losing money. Fear of losing me. She said she wasn't actually going to take anything. Then why did she submit an application? I don't know. You need to figure that out. He was silent. Then he said, "Mom, I'm sorry." I wasn't ready to forgive him. But I wasn't ready to lose him either. So I said, "I'm not angry because you can't afford something. I'm angry because you let someone convince you that my sacrifices belong to you." He started crying. I had never heard my son cry like that since he was a little boy. "I know." "No, Daniel. Listen to me. You don't owe me your life. But you do owe me honesty." "I understand. I hope you do." We ended the call. For the next month, I heard almost nothing from them. Then one afternoon, I received an envelope. Inside was a check. $8,000. My original gift. And a handwritten note from Daniel. "Mom, you gave this to us because you loved us. We turned it into an expectation. I'm sorry." I stared at the check for a long time. I didn't cash it. I called Daniel. "Why are you returning this?" "Because it doesn't feel right keeping it." "Did Melissa agree?" He hesitated. "No." I understood. "What happened?" "She left." My heart sank. "For good?" "She moved in with her sister." I didn't ask for details. I didn't need them. Daniel came to my house that Sunday. He looked exhausted. We sat on the porch. For a while, neither of us spoke. Finally, he said, "I thought keeping peace meant making everyone happy." I looked at him. "You can't keep peace by sacrificing the person who is easiest to pressure." He nodded. "I should have defended you." "Yes." He looked surprised by my answer. "I don't want you to pretend you didn't fail me." "I know. But I also don't want you to spend the rest of your life punishing yourself." His eyes filled with tears. "I missed you." "I missed you too." That was the first time we hugged since the argument. It wasn't a magical fix. Trust didn't return overnight. But something began rebuilding. Slowly. Over the next several months, Daniel started visiting me alone. He helped me repair the porch. He fixed a broken cabinet. Sometimes he brought dinner. Sometimes we just sat outside and talked. He never asked about my savings again. Not once. And that mattered more than any apology. As for Melissa, I never spoke to her again. I heard through Daniel that she believed I had destroyed their marriage. Perhaps I had. But I hadn't destroyed anything. I had simply refused to finance it. 6 months after that terrible dinner, I decided to do something unexpected. I took part of my savings and renovated my own backyard. For years, I had kept telling myself there was no reason to spend money on myself. The fence could wait. The garden could wait. The patio could wait. Everything could wait. I had spent so much of my life saving for emergencies that I had forgotten life itself wasn't an emergency. So I hired a local contractor. We built a small stone patio beneath the old oak tree. I planted roses. I bought a comfortable chair. And I installed warm lights along the fence. The first evening I sat there, I carried out a cup of tea. I looked around. No one had approved the design. No one had calculated the return on investment. No one had decided what the space should become. It was mine. And for the first time in a long time, I understood something. My savings weren't just numbers in an account. They represented years of work. Years of saying no to things I wanted. Years of choosing security over luxury. Years of building a life carefully because I knew one day I would need that security. Giving money to family had never been the mistake. The mistake would have been allowing generosity to become an obligation. One Sunday afternoon, Daniel came over. He stood at the edge of the patio. Wow. I smiled. You like it? I love it. He looked around. Did you pay for all this yourself? Yes. He laughed softly. Good. Why good? Because it's yours. I smiled. Then he handed me a small box. What is this? Open it. Inside was a framed photograph. It was a picture of me, Daniel, and his father taken years earlier. We were standing in front of our old house. I hadn't seen that photograph in years. On the back, Daniel had written, "Thank you for teaching me that love isn't measured by what we can take from someone. It's measured by what we're willing to respect." I couldn't speak for a moment. Then I hugged him. And this time, the hug felt different. There was no guilt in it. No obligation. No money between us. Just my son. And that was worth more than anything in my bank account. A year later, Daniel bought a smaller house on his own. He told me he wanted something he could comfortably afford without relying on anyone. I helped him move one Saturday morning. As we carried boxes through his new living room, he stopped. Mom? Yes? I finally understand why you said no. I smiled. What changed? He looked around his modest little house. It's not about money. No. It's about knowing what's yours. I nodded. Exactly. That evening, after I returned home, I sat beneath the oak tree. The garden lights glowed softly around me. My phone rang. It was Daniel. Mom? Yes? I just wanted to say thank you. For what? For not letting me become someone I wouldn't have respected. I closed my eyes. For a moment, I thought about the $8,000 check sitting in my desk drawer. I had never deposited it. I had kept it. Not because I needed the money. Because it reminded me of something important. The gift itself had never been the problem. The problem began when someone decided a gift meant they were entitled to everything that came after it. That experience changed the way I looked at generosity. I still help people. I still give when I can. I still believe family should support one another. But now I understand that support without boundaries can quietly become dependence. And kindness without limits can teach the wrong person to expect more. My daughter-in-law wanted my life savings because she believed I had more than I needed. What she never understood was that my savings weren't extra money. They were my freedom. They were the quiet promise I had made to myself that I would never have to beg someone else for a place to live, a medical decision, or a peaceful tomorrow. And no matter how much I loved my son, I wasn't willing to surrender that promise. I didn't destroy my family by saying no. I protected the possibility of having a family worth keeping. Because eventually, Daniel learned the difference between love and entitlement. He learned that a mother's generosity is not an inheritance received early. And he learned that sometimes the most loving thing a parent can do is refuse to rescue an adult child from the consequences of their own choices. As for me, I learned something even more important. You can love people deeply and still lock your doors. You can forgive someone and still protect your accounts. You can help your family and still say no. And you can give someone a beautiful housewarming gift without giving them the keys to your future. That night, sitting beneath the oak tree, I looked at the house Arthur and I had built together. The windows glowed warmly. The garden was quiet. My future was still mine. And I smiled. Because the greatest gift I had ever given my family wasn't money. It was the lesson that love should never require you to disappear.